Hi, I'm Aaron Dean, and this is Advocate Today. Protesters outside a school board meeting turned violent as the school board members inside debated LGBTQ plus issues and held a vote to mark June as Pride Month. It happened outside the Glendale Unified School District. Protesters on both sides of the issue gathered, some waving American flags, others waving pride flags. The Pride Month resolution passed. The brawl between protesters led to just 3 arrested and no injuries. Well, the Human Rights Campaign is declaring a state of emergency for LGBTQ plus people for the first time in its 40-year plus history. The civil rights group is warning of what it calls an unprecedented and dangerous spike in discriminatory legislation. HRC says more than 70 anti-LGBTQ plus bills have been signed into law this year, and more than 500 have been introduced. That's double last year's number. HRC also released a guidebook with summaries of laws in each state. Know your rights information along with resources for LGBTQ plus travelers and those living in what it calls hostile states. Chasten Buttigieg is on the cover of Advocate Magazine's May-June Pride cover. He now has a book out called I Have Something to Tell You, which focuses on his life before meeting Mayor Pete. I spoke with Chasten at a book signing in Washington, D.C. about what's next for him and the possibilities of writing again. What's next for you?
What's next?
Yeah.
Well, this book tour keeps blowing up, and I love it. I love the opportunity to go to places where these conversations are sorely needed. So I appreciate the opportunity to go to Tennessee and Ohio and going back to Florida. I've been reading a lot of kids' books to my kids, and I've started noticing that there aren't a lot of books just with 2 dads. So I've been noodling on maybe taking pen to paper again.
If you want to meet Chasten in person, his book tour is continuing. It'll be making stops in places like Cleveland, Miami, Richfield, and Memphis. Go to chastenwrites.com to register. Black professionals only account for about 6% of all chief executive leadership roles, and that's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Data is now showing that after a company appoints a black CEO, their market cap jumps on average by 3%. Catapult Change is working with BIPOC and queer executives on empowerment and inclusion. I spoke with Catapult Change founder Patrice Ford Lyn on giving power to leaders. You know, a lot of times in those positions of CEO or executive there's not a lot of people of color. There's not too many queer individuals. And when we look even deeper, when it comes to black women or black queer women, you know, what is happening in these spaces that's not really allowing that those opportunities to be, fruitful for people, identify that way?
The concept of imposter syndrome tends to be in the room a lot. And I say concept because I don't want to put it on individuals. The idea that we, and when I say we, people from marginalized populations, feel that we might not be ready for senior leadership, or we might not even pursue those options, is because there are ways that society subtly and overtly tells us we're not good enough. So there is an inherent way that we must actually rewrite those narratives for ourselves so that we have the tenacity to even seek those positions. I'll give you an example. The first time I was in a senior position, I actually turned down the position 2-3 times before I was voluntold. But I kept saying, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I was extraordinarily ready. I had the right supports around me. Sure, it was new and it was hard, but we are, and you see women do this quite a bit, that we don't apply for jobs unless we are 100% aligned with the qualifications, where often men don't really feel the need to be quite so qualified. They'll
Yeah.
apply with about 50% of the qualifications. So depending on the issues that you're having or the challenges that you have been faced with, you probably don't think you're ready for the things that you truly are ready for.
And you mentioned imposter syndrome and things like that. How, with the things that you have, seen throughout your career, how does all of that impact how you approach coaching and elevating Black leaders when it comes to whatever it is that they want to do?
I hold space for leaders to see possibilities beyond their current imagination. Often because we are the first, we don't have the role models. Often because there aren't other people, we don't have other people to ask about what's possible. So, who is holding the space to say it is okay to be humble and ambitious, that you don't have to choose? That's the role of a coach for folks at very senior levels. It can be very, very lonely to be in those positions, especially as Black executives. So, having somebody else who I like to think about it as gently having their hand on your back and is walking that road with you can be absolutely transformational.
And, kind of bouncing off of that, it really hit home when you talked about that, because for me, career-wise, working in media, not too long ago, I was a first. I was the first primetime evening Black anchor in certain
Mm.
particular news market. And I'm just like, how is this possible? But it's also like, okay, great. I am leading the way, but I can count on my hand, probably maybe two hands, if that, how many other Black journalists, in that space came before me that were also first or also, held positions like that. So it was, that really hit home. And I really appreciate you kind of touching on that. And even with that, how do you help the firsts, the few, because that's a scary thing, I don't have, I didn't have that person pushing me on my back, or someone else didn't have that. What do you do?
Aaron, let's talk about it.
Let's
So
get
think
into it.
about who
Ready?
you let's think about who you are and who you were in that moment and the
Mhm.
supports you needed. You needed a thought partner who you could run ideas by. You need to think
Mhm.
about what it meant to build your brand. Okay, so how do I, as a Black man, build my brand and dispel some of the other myths around Black men being aggressive or people just being inherently scared? When it comes to Black women, it's often the angry Black woman. How
Yes.
do I not play into those tropes and not silence myself? We talk about what it means to manage your energy and to manage your time. So often when we are in those positions where we're the first, we're the only, there's so many people behind us who want some of our time. How do we manage lifting as we climb, knowing that we're still climbing?
Mm.
How do we surround ourselves with a tribe of people that we can call on? So when there's an opportunity that comes out, you have other people helping you to vet it. You don't have to do all that intellectual processing yourself. So when I think about it, there's truly a plethora of supports that senior executives, especially the folks who can't look back into their families or back immediately into their networks and find other people who have done what they're trying to do, they need those supports and they need someone who can even help to remind them about how to access those supports. It's okay to be scared and it's important to be courageous. Develop your own personal board of directors, those advisors who can tell you what's going on in the industry, who can remind you of your strengths, who can challenge your viewpoints so that when you go into any room, you feel deeply equipped to be there.
The Advocate Channel, Equal Pride, and Out Magazine are joining iHeartMedia and Procter & Gamble for one of the biggest Pride celebrations online. The Advocate Channel is the official streaming partner for Can't Cancel Pride, and it's going into its 4th year. This year's host is JoJo Siwa, and you can watch it right here on the Advocate Channel on advocatechannel.com and stream it live on the app. Can't Cancel Pride begins streaming June 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And thanks for watching Advocate today. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to stream us live, and you can watch us even on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, okay? For the Advocate Channel, I'm Aaron Dean.